Today in our 2015 Thor Challenger Ford F53 chassis motorhome, we'll be installing the Roadmaster Rear Anti-Sway Bar, part number 1139-144. Driving a motorhome in the wind isn't a lot of fun because the wind will push the motorhome side to side. This will help reduce that and make it easier for us to arrive at our destination safely and not worn out. This bar is 1.75 inches in diameter. By being that thick, it will greatly reduce our body roll going into corners, it'll increase our stability, and help prevent driver fatigue. This bar is constructed of a cadmium plated 4140 chromoly steel, so that means it's very durable, very strong, and will resist rust and corrosion for many years down the road. Now this sway bar works in conjunction with the factory sway bar. We don't remove the factory sway bar when we install this. This works together with it and will dramatically improve our ride quality. Okay, here's what our kit consists of. We have our sway bar included, as well as our two new end links here, our end link mounting brackets, our new polyurethane sway bar bushings, our sway bar bushing brackets, and then our brackets here. And then we also have our end link hardware here with our washers, our bolts to secure our end link brackets to the frame, some washers there, and then our bolts to secure our sway bar brackets to the frame. Now we're underneath our vehicle. I want to point out at this point in time that our vehicle is lifted by the tires. You should not be doing this if the vehicle was lifted by the frame. You would have to do this either on the ground, all four tires on the ground, or the vehicle lifted by the tires. Otherwise, this would be dangerous. So we're going to remove these four nuts here that hold our U-bolts to our leaf spring and our rear axle. I'm using an 1 1/8" socket for this. Alright, since these are rather large nuts and rather large U-bolts, and they're really tight and there's some rust, I'm going to try using some penetrating oil on them to see if it'll help ease our removal of them. Even though we're only working on one side at a time right now, I'm going to go ahead and spray the other side too once these four are sprayed, just so hopefully it has some time to soak in. Now this bracket here, once we remove all four of our bolts, will come down. So we want to make sure we hold on to it when we remove the last nut so it doesn't fall and hurt us. Now we'll install our bracket for mounting our sway bar to, making sure these small holes here face towards the center of our vehicle and towards the front. But we need to hold this in place while we raise that up. So now we have an assistant holding our axle bracket in place while we'll raise up our new replacement bracket. We'll use our existing hardware that we had removed, put our washers on, and our nuts. Okay, with all four started, we can start to tighten them down now. Now you want to make sure the top edge of your U-bolt here sits in the groove on the top plate on top of the leaf spring. You don't want to have it slipped off, otherwise your axle could flex on you while you're driving down the road. I will start to snug these up. Now that we've tightened over bolts and we assured that everything is straight and lined up properly in its original location, we can repeat the same process on the other side. Now we'll take our sway bar bushings here and our grease and we'll lubricate the inside of the bushings. Let's make sure we get a nice even coat throughout the perimeter of the bushing. Okay, once we have one done, do the other one. Make sure we get a nice good coat on these. We have plenty of grease. Don't be afraid to use all of it. So we'll slide them open and place them onto the sway bar like so. We'll take our bracket, push it down over the bushing like so. Okay. Now you may have noticed on our brackets that we attached to our axle, there's two sets of holes. There's a set here towards the back and a set towards the front. If your vehicle is over 18,000 pounds gross vehicle weight, like ours is 22,000 today, you use the front holes. If it's under 18,000 pounds, you use the back holes. So I went ahead and circled the front holes with a paint marker so we know which ones to use and you can see easier. Now we'll take our 7/16 bolt, remove a nut from it, one of our flat washers, drop it down through the holes we need. We'll do the same for the other 3 bolt holes. Okay. With those bolts in place now, since this bar is really heavy, we will need the help of an assistant to raise it into position and secure it. We'll secure it with 4 more flat washers and the nuts that we removed from the bolts. Now before we tighten down our hardware for our sway bar brackets, we want to make sure the bar is centered in the brackets. About 2 fingers here on the side of the bushing to where it's still straight. Same over here. We'll take a 5/8 wrench, place it over the bolt, and we'll use an 11/16 on the nut. So we'll take our large bolt here, remove the nut, take our sway bar end link, place it in position, take our bolt, slide it through the inside, and install our nut. We'll repeat the process on the other side. Now we'll take our end link frame bracket. This flange here with the bolt holes goes towards the outside. We'll do the same on the other side. All right, now we're gonna have an assistant help us raise the sway bar and all the brackets and links up in position. And we're going to clamp it to our frame with some vice grips or locking pliers. And we'll do the same on the other side. Now we have both of our end link brackets clamped to the frame now. You know you have it in the right position when your end link is straight up and down when the vehicle is at normal ride height. Since we have our vehicle raised by all 4 wheels, we know it's at normal ride height because all the weight is on the suspension. Now we can drill our pilot holes through our bracket into our frame. We want to make sure we're not going to drill in any electrical wires or any hoses or lines of any sort behind it. So you need to double check that. I already did and we're good. So I'm just starting with a small drill bit. Go to the center of the hole and we'll start our pilot hole. Okay, now that we have one of our pilot holes done, we'll do the same for the other 3 mounting bolts. Okay, now that we have all of our pilot holes drilled, we'll drill them out to our final size. Okay, now that all of our holes are drilled, we'll take a bolt, a large washer, and we'll install it through the bracket into the frame. Then on the inside of the frame rail, we'll use another large washer and a nut. So we'll install the washer and the nut, and we'll do the same for the other bolt hole. We'll repeat this process on the other side. Okay, now that all of our hardware is in place, we can tighten it down fully, starting with our sway bar end link brackets. Okay, so we have a 3/4 inch wrench holding the bolt in place, and a 3/4 inch socket to tighten the nut. Once we have our bolts tightened down to hold our bracket on, we can remove our clamp that we use to hold the bracket in place. Now we use a 15/16 wrench and socket to tighten these up. We don't need to go too tight on them because we will be torquing them to spec later. We just want to run down a little bit. Now that we have our bolts run down a little bit, we'll torque them to spec using the same socket and wrench as before, but this time using a torque wrench. We'll repeat the process on the other side. And that completes our installation of the Roadmaster Rear Anti-Sway Bar, part number 1139-144 on our 2015 Thor Challenger Ford F53 chassis motorhome.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.